Hello and welcome. My name's Rod. I'm coming to you from Sydney in Australia. Welcome to today's live stream. This is going to be all about Klaviyo again today, like in a similar live stream that we've run in the past. If you are just tuning in, then say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're from. I'll give you a shout out. I've got a very special guest today who I'm going to introduce in just a minute. We're actually coming to you from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So welcome to all the people who are tuning in from one of those places. We've got, what temperature is it today? It's like 17.5 degrees Celsius, which is probably about 58 or so Fahrenheit, if that's your thing. So we've got... I just want to do a very quick introduction about what I do in case you don't know who I am. So my name is Rod Bland. I'm a former e-commerce founder and I own an e-commerce business called Ram City, which I grew from scratch over a period of 16 years. Sold that to my competitor a couple of years ago. And nowadays I mainly help people with their email marketing, but more from the perspective of their automated email flows and particularly with migrations. So we deal with a lot of tricky migrations where we're dealing with a lot of data with e-commerce businesses that have email on another platform, and then we help bring them over into Klaviyo, which is our program of choice. So I just want to give you a quick little spotlight to one of our clients who has kindly agreed to do this. So this is Medcart. So we started working with Medcart about a month ago. So they're a marketplace for medical, pharmacy, beauty suppliers. So they have the marketplace for those suppliers. And they only recently started with us. They were actually using Klaviyo previously. And I'll just show you this tab here. So previously they had, just in their 30-day period. So this is just an example of why it's really worthwhile making an investment into your email marketing, particularly with a platform like Klaviyo if you're doing e-commerce. So their total revenues increased 54%. The attributed revenue, so that's the revenue that's attributed to Klaviyo. So just with the email marketing at the moment, that's increased 259% up to 21%. So as far as the performance of their flows, which is something I really focus on because I'm interested in automating things, making things easier for business owners, there's been an increase from 11% up to 64%. They've had an 85% increase in recipients. They've had 140% increase in unique opens. Their open rate has gone up 30% to 51%. And their conversion rate has really improved a lot, up to 3.63. So that's the quick spotlight there for Medcart. Now, I'm going to bring on our guest at the moment. So I met Andriy is from Flowium, which is a email marketing agency in New York. Hopefully I've got that right. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. With an agency of around about 60 people. I learned about Andriy a few years ago with one of his training programs. He's just an absolute wealth of information when it comes to email marketing for e-commerce. So he's agreed to come on board with us today, and I'll bring him in right now. Andriy, how are you?
Good. How are you, Rob?
Good, man. So thanks for joining us all the way. Now, you are in New York, right? That's where you actually live as well, right?
Yes. Our office
cool.
in New York, and I live in New York.
Yeah. So what is it? It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night on Monday over there?
It's 8:05 p.m. Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I guess one thing I wanted to learn was how you actually got started with what you do at the moment. Like, how did your agency actually begin?
Sure. So it's a great question. I get it a lot. I used to work in corporate America here as a technology engineer. We were doing designs for telecommunication system, for audiovisual and security systems. But there was like pivotal moment in my life where I was just sick and tired of things I was doing, and I was not like growing, and I decided to quit my job. And on the side, I used to have Actually, the website still exists, but it's not. I'm not actively working on it. It was a website for Ukrainian immigrants who come to America to US, how to assimilate to American lifestyle. And I at that moment I used email marketing a lot. Actually, all marketing was 100% rely on email marketing. So people get to websites, they sign up, and I guide them through different journeys based on what they want to learn about. So when I quit my job, like I was trying to monetize this website, I was not successful. So I need to make some money. So I started freelancing on Upwork, and I was offering all kind of services, Facebook ads, website development. Like I just put a list of things I could do, or at least did once. So I put it as a service. And then when I got my first gig, it was for email marketing and some integrations. The guy paid me $50. It was a job project for $50, and I spent like I believe more than 8 hours on that project, which was like equal to like what, a little bit more than $5 per hour. But my goal was to get the good rating, so I just did my best and got my first 5 stars. And when I start to do more and more projects, I realize there's good opportunity for me to focus on email marketing because there's not much competition. And at that time, the hourly rate was around like $46 for email marketing. So this is how I got started with kind of email marketing providing services. I started back in 2014 or 14. Yeah, 2014 was email marketing for myself, and start to provide services in 2017.
Wow, so you've been in the game for like, if you think of 2014, almost 10 years then.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And you're a prolific content creator as well. So I think that's how I found out about you. I think it was probably through your YouTube channel, and then I think I found whatever I could, whatever course you'd made, I bought, and I think you had one on Udemy as well. And yeah, it's all really useful information. So
Thank you.
yeah, do you how do you find like the time to actually, because you've now got a lot of people to look after within your agency as far as staff and that sort of thing goes, have you found that's been challenging, like still actually providing that content and information to people that they can consume for free, as well as looking after your own business?
Actually, with more people, well, like as our team, as our company grew, as our team grew, it become easier because we have specialists in each role. So now I have more time to focus on content creation and top of the funnel with more awareness. I heavily focusing right now on LinkedIn, growing my and the company exposure on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. We continue growing on YouTube.
Yeah, cool. All right, so for anyone who's just tuned in or you're watching this on replay, my name's Rod. So we're talking all about Klaviyo today. My special guest is Andriy from Flowium, who's a real expert with email marketing, SMS, and Klaviyo in particular. And if you are just joining in, then say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. I'll give you a shout out. And I'm going to go through. I've got a few questions myself that I'll ask you, Andriy, and then if we do have a question for Andriy that's either related to Klaviyo or for just e-commerce in general, then just put that in the comments, type a Q, put your question, I'll pick that up, and then we'll go from there. So we've still got people that are waiting to tune in at the moment. So I guess my first question is, as far as like, there's lots of different options for especially email marketing systems for people that have e-commerce businesses, and I'm curious about why it seems like you've really settled on, and Klaviyo, that seems to be your product of choice. So is there what is it that's about Klaviyo that particularly works well for e-commerce, and why is that the product that you guys have standardized on?
I mean, first of all, it's extremely easy to use. It's user friendly. Doesn't matter if you are a freelancer, agency owner, or the brand, or somebody who works for the brand. So this is probably one of the biggest things. It's very user friendly and extremely easy for business owner or the brand to see the performance of email marketing. So they don't have to like create crazy reports, dig deep, and understand, does my email marketing channel perform or it does not perform. So it's like from analytical perspective, it's very easy to understand if it makes money. And the last thing, it's segmentation. It's Klaviyo is extremely powerful in terms of segmentation, and even like Klaviyo is well known for in e-commerce industry, but even for our B2B in our agency, we use it for ourselves to do email marketing because of the segmentation piece.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I didn't. I actually find that myself, like for my own agency, then it's adaptable enough that you can actually use it for your own email marketing instead of having to have a different platform. And you have all your clients on Klaviyo, and then something different for your agency. You can use them all in one.
But listen, like I mean, Klaviyo is an amazing platform, but there's also other platform where I wish Klaviyo has those kind of features, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, like HubSpot, for example, I love HubSpot when they track visitor anonymously, and when they opt in, you can see the entire history, what they
Yeah.
how they interacted in the past on your website. Klaviyo doesn't have it.
Yeah, provides a fingerprint. So yeah, if you guys, anyone just tuning in, thank you. Hi, Kamara Abdullah. Hi, there we go. I think I've got that pronounced right. Let us know where you're from, Kamara. It'd be interesting to know which part of the world you're from. But by your name, I'd say you could be anywhere. So I'm not going to take a guess with that. If you're just tuning in, if you have a question for either myself or for Andriy, then drop that into the chat. That if it's related to e-commerce in general or to Klaviyo, we'd love to hear from you. If you are watching this on replay, then feel free to let us know where you're tuned in from as well. So I have a number of other questions for you. So if somebody hasn't really been paying attention to email marketing thus far, they've got an e-commerce business and they wanted to start sort of getting going and taking advantage of a product like Klaviyo. So where would they start? What's sort of the low hanging fruit that you usually get people to look at first, especially if they've got a limited amount of budget to work with?
I mean, as you probably know already, like abandoned carts is probably the lowest hanging fruit. It's you can even use Klaviyo if you use Klaviyo or any other platform. They have like out of the box automation, which you can just turn it on, maybe modify a little bit, copy and change your logo to look at on brand. But this is probably the lowest hanging fruit. But in general, I would strongly recommend to turn on all automation and at least the first email in all the lifecycle automations, like welcome series, abandoned cart, browser abandoned, post purchase, win back, those five or six, to at least turn the first email, to set up the first email. And when you have more time, more resources, you can build the rest of the funnel. But my advice, don't try to make it perfect. You can make it even a text-based email. The most important to send out that email and to make that touch point.
Interesting. So rather than sort of spend a lot of time like getting one flow perfect, smash out that first one for each one, and then flesh them out from there as you've got space to do it.
Correct, because I mean, there's few reasons why I say this. First of all, you don't know which trigger you will hit. I mean, which trigger will be triggered by the customer and which email in which funnel they will go. So this is first. Second, it's more as a psychological. When you see that conversion, let's say for abandoned cart, you made $5 or $50 or $100. It will give you motivation and boost to kind of maybe implement a little bit more emails in that specific flow.
Yeah. So in terms of priority, so abandoned cart, that makes sense. That's a no-brainer. In some platforms like Shopify, the integration with Klaviyo has well, it's actually abandoned checkout, isn't it? Because it uses the started checkout is the event.
Yeah.
Do you always set up the abandoned cart so the extra, so that they have abandoned cart and abandoned checkout, so the add to cart event and the one that is triggered based on begun checkout? Do you always have the two, run the two together?
For our clients in our agency, yes, we do both. But if you're just getting started, I strongly recommend just to do we call it abandonment card, but you said abandonment checkout. So basically, you don't need to install any extra code, because add to cart, you need to do special code snippet on your Shopify store, and it might be a little bit technical, complicated, and it might stop you for implementing this. So I would just to take the path of least resistance,
Yeah. Okay, cool. So as far as the ideal number of, if we talk about, say, abandoned checkout, so if, let's say somebody they're just getting started, they want to, where do they start? Is there an ideal number of emails that you'd have in an abandoned checkout flow?
The ideal is 7. So I learned this from Ezra Firestone.
Okay, 7, right.
Yeah. I mean, you asked me about the ideal, not the minimum. The ideal is 7. I learned it from Ezra Firestone from Smart Marketer, and the hypothesis is to hit them every day with one email up to 7 days, because you have their attention hypothetically for 7 days. So you want to follow up with 7 days, but it doesn't mean you just need to send them, hey, buy. It's a mix of promotions, if you have any promotion, reminder, plus some kind of content, and cross-sell.
So one of the things I've noticed that's changed in the last couple of years is especially when it comes to like browse abandonment and, well, let's say browse abandonment. So browse abandonment is based on when somebody's visited a product page or a collection page, and it's a reminder of the fact that what they have visited, and to sort of keep going with their purchase process. And back in, a few years ago, then that was often quite blatant. It was like, we noticed that you were looking at this, or we noticed you were looking at that. And it seems that people, even though people know that with all these different marketing tools, Facebook, etc., they're being somewhat monitored in an anonymous way, they don't want that pointed out to them. That's creepy. So have you found that what your clients want as far as the wording and the messaging that goes along with something like a browse abandonment flow has changed, and it needs to be a lot more subtle and much less about, okay, we noticed that you're doing this? And how have you dealt with that?
So since my early days when I started working on Klaviyo, I don't think we ever used that kind of language, saying, hey, we noticed you are interested. Why? Because it's creepy for me, and but I'm a marketer. I know how those things works, but like person not in the marketing space or not in tech space, they are not aware how we are tracking that information. So we try to create different kind of language, a different kind of like message, more about like, hey, this is like something about like asking for like, do you have any questions, or like I'm not the copywriter, but the language should not be as creepy, asking like, hey, we saw you were checking out the X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
it should be much softer.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do is exactly what you said. Was the first one is usually FAQs. So if somebody has done a browse ban, hasn't gotten any further, then do you need some help? Here's our most popular frequently asked questions, and link to that, and actually have a button which is read our FAQs, and then the next one we start to pick out some of the most popular, especially if they've got a blog or they've got articles that they've written, we start to pick out the most popular ones, and you can target it based on what they were actually, so which category they were browsing. So at least it's appropriate, but it's still not, they're still not reading it and going, well, they've done it. people don't want to feel like they're being spied on, but at least the messaging is then appropriate to them. You can just pick up the category that they were looking at and direct them to the right
And
place.
for one brand, we went like extra mile. I mean, we went actually crazy because we had close to 10 different paths for browser abandonment. So we customize each template for different collections. So it was
Yeah.
different. It was cartoon characters. So each template was designed differently by using that character language, like brand voice, and we saw much higher conversion. But that brand had much more money to invest in their email marketing, so that's why we did it for them.
Yeah, because that would take time to
Of
create.
course, yeah.
So how were they sold on that idea? Was it just like, okay, well, is this something that you came up with that you hadn't done for other clients before, or something that you were able to go, okay, this is something that we did for another client. What do you think about that? How did you actually end up pitching that to them, that idea?
So they had the bestseller collection, and my pitch was, listen, let me do one pass first. Everybody will go through generic browser abandonment, and one pass will go, people who are interested in that specific collection will go through different templates. And they said, okay, let's do it. Like, there's nothing to lose. And after we saw much higher, I think the conversion went like was 2x for this browser abandonment. I don't have exact numbers, but I believe it was close to 2x. And we started to develop the other collections as well. Same thing we did on the opt-in. If people were on specific collection page, we branded that opt-in with the colors and voice of that movie or cartoon character.
Interesting. So, if there was, so which of the, like let's say in the last year, is there been any changes? Like, is there certain flows that you now focus a lot more on with clients than what you used to before? Has there been sort of some pretty major changes because of what's just been happening with e-commerce, I guess, since COVID has changed? Have you noticed any sort of general changes that are applying to all the client work that you're doing nowadays?
We are leveraging, so in terms of, if we're talking about Klaviyo, we use their AI, or sorry, not AI, like machine learning capabilities. So we using like, for one-time buyers, we using regular win-back, but for 2+ time buyers, we use predictive analytics to trigger win-back. So when Klaviyo predicts that they will buy, so we send those emails at that time, because we don't want to wait the typical 45 or 60 days to send them the win-back if they are more likely to buy sooner. So we use machine learning, or when they are about to churn, we have some flows about that. But also what we do, we build a lot of email marketing around different technologies. So even today we had a call with Ocando, the review platform, and they have also surveys, how we collect data and use the data to automate and personalize different emails and flows and campaigns. We big fan of loyalty program, because we see very high retention and lifetime value of the customer. So we built all email marketing around loyalty, automatic emails. In addition, we do specific campaigns of 2x points or even 5x points. Depends how extreme we want to go and how aggressive the clients want to go with loyalty program.
So, what was the loyalty? So, is there a loyalty program that you generally use with clients at the moment, and you're looking at a different one now, or is there one that you're just talking about? What was the name of that program again? That app?
So Ocando, it's a review platform. It's not loyalty program. They, spoiler alert, they planning to do the loyalty program, but that one I'm not sure when they're releasing.
Okay.
Ocando,
How's that spelled?
Ocando, Okendo.
Okay, okay, I'll see if we can find it. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, this is it here. I'll just share just so that people can quickly see it. That's
No,
reviews.io. Yeah.
yeah,
That's fair.
it's their competitor.
There we go. Here we go. Let's bring it up. Yeah,
Yeah, because
they had
you clicked
the
on
top
this
spot in
bunch
Google
of
Ads. It's a classic
yeah.
example of how bidding for your competitors works. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's cool. So yeah, because there was a couple of things that you mentioned there. One was you're using, so just for people who may not be aware, so Klaviyo has a predictive analytics in it, and it allows you to use a predictive metric as like a trigger point, right? So you can say, okay, if how does that work? So you weight based on when the estimated next purchase date
Yes,
is,
yes,
and
yes.
then that's how you trigger it. And then we've also got this predicted date of when they're going to churn as well. Is that also in Klaviyo? Have you got
It's
access to
it's
that? As a
it's not it's not date, it's a percentage. It's a
yeah.
percentage. So it's like 50% that they will churn or 90% that they will churn. Depends
Yep.
how important it is for your business, because for some business it's not important. For some, let's say a subscription-based businesses
Yeah.
or somebody who has a replenishing products, it's important. But if you have like apparel brand, maybe it's not as crucial for you. So it all based on what you sell.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, going back to my original question, which is because you mentioned loyalty programs. So, as far as implementing a loyalty program, is that something that you recommend to most of your e-commerce clients, or does it kind of some conditions that would go along with that?
Uh, I would say conditions, since if you have just few SKUs in your store and your product is not replenishable, maybe you will not get a lot of like return on for the loyalty program. But if, for example, if you're like a apparel brand, you have different like collection of your products, you want your customers to come back. If you're like a CPG brand, some kind of like a replenishment food, like beauty cosmetics, you want the customer come back. Like you win them once, you acquire them, and you
Mm-hmm.
want them to come back. And
Yep.
I mean, email marketing is a great channel for retaining the clients. But if you add loyalty, it's even better. If you incentivize them to with some kind of like point
Yep.
system, like I don't know, like Sephora, Victoria's Secrets, Starbucks is a great example how they use loyalty points.
Yep. So if it's a product that's likely to have some sort of repurchase cycle in it, then generally
Or
speaking,
they have many SKUs.
yeah, okay, yep. So a wide catalog. All right, cool. And so, are there any apps or products that you would recommend that has worked with other clients as far as loyalty program goes? I know you mentioned that Okendo is going to have one, but I guess there's one that you currently are using with your clients at the moment.
So I typically recommend Smile.io because it's the easiest to implement. It's free to get started. But the three I want to mention is like Smile.io, Stamped.io, I believe,
Yes, I've
and
heard
the
of
last
the
one
stamps. Yep.
is Loyalty Line.
Okay. So Stamp.io started as a review platform, if I remember rightly, and so they do loyalty now as well. I always liked that product,
Yes.
so I didn't realize that was actually something that they did nowadays. And then Smile.io, how's that spelled? Is it actually SMILE? I tried with a Y.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Smile. Yeah.
Wow, that must have cost them a fortune to buy that domain. All right. Cool. So I'll make a note of those in the show notes later, so people can check those out if they want to. All right. So having a look at the segmentation side of things. So you mentioned segmentation a little bit with as far as your own marketing with your agency goes. How are you using segmentation with your e-commerce clients? So the things that actually produce the most return on investment.
So, I mean, first of all, which we strongly recommend to have the just engagement, kind of your master list, master of like engaged subscribers who engage with your brand in the last either 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 45 days. You need to find that engagement when its open rate is like, let's say 25% or higher. You can expand your segment. If it's lower, you need to shrink it to start interacting with your customers. But also what we like to build is interest segments, meaning, let's say, headphones you're wearing, and let's say there's e-commerce store who sells different kinds of headphones. But when we built a segment of people who either viewed that headphone set, who started checkout but didn't buy, who added to the cart, what else? Or maybe if you collect somehow information through quiz or maybe preference pages, and we got that information from other sources, we build a segment. And next time when we send campaign, we like to maybe send it to everybody to engage segment, but also we want to separately send to people who are interested. Why we do that? We want to split test and see how that segment, that unique segment, that specific segment performed overall in comparison to the generic list. And why it's important. You don't want to overwhelm the people with so many campaigns. So moving forward, if you see that that specific segment performs better, maybe it's a business decision which we will recommend to send it only to the specific segment versus the generic. And one example I can give you, we did that task many times for a few brands, and sometimes the smaller segment, even 10 times smaller segment, they have 10 times less subscribers, perform in terms of revenue amount 10 times higher than the big segment, which kind of crazy.
So way higher open rates, click rates, conversion rates, but yeah, okay. So it's the power of actually, I guess, being more targeted about what you're doing. So when a new client comes on, I just want to touch on list cleaning and actually maintaining your database, keeping it clean, because we often see where when people start, they have these really terrible open rates. So part of what we do to begin with is try to optimize their list and go through a cleaning process. And to date, anyway, and you might have a better idea, we've generally gone with, for a little while, emailing their entire list so that we can determine who are the people who really are engaged. I mean, we've got an idea of who's engaged already, but oftentimes they've not. They've only emailed those who have opted in. They haven't actually emailed everyone who's purchased from them before. And so we found some value in, for a period of time, emailing their entire list with sort of more evergreen campaigns, and then using that data to then sort of niche down, narrow it down a bit, get rid of the people who received the emails but didn't open, didn't click, didn't do anything, once we've sort of sent about 5. Do you have any particular strategies that you usually recommend to clients when they're first starting with you, particularly if they've got pretty bad open rates to begin with?
Sure. So we do something similar to what you just said, but in addition to that, we set up, you probably do that as well, as the sunset flow, where we, if people don't engage with emails for a certain period of time, they go through specific flow where we're trying to re-engage them. We just recently published YouTube. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to shout out.
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. If you type in just sunset flow Flowium, it will be one of the first one.
Okay.
We just published an article and also YouTube video how we do it. Yeah, so what just you, Rob, said about creating the segment, send it to everybody and see who's engaging with the email or not. But in addition, create automation that moving forward, everybody will go through it who stop engaging with the email, and you can safely unsubscribe them if they don't engage with that sunset flow. And addition, one thing to remember, in December of this year, Google will suppress, stops, will close down accounts, Gmail accounts, which are inactive for the last 2 years. So you need to, this year, before December, you need to clean up your list heavily for all unengaged Gmail subscribers, because it will dramatically hurt your deliverability if you don't do that.
Yeah. So I'll just explain that a little bit, just add to what you've said. So that's Klaviyo does have, so if somebody has had their account closed, it's going to be considered to be a hard bounce. So when I don't know how many hard bounces it is, but it's more than one, I'm pretty sure, before Klaviyo then actually automatically suppresses that person.
Rob, so it's seven soft bounces before
Soft bounces,
it's suppressed. Yep. Yeah, but hard bounce from the first one they suppress.
It's the first one. Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So, I mean, that 7 soft bounces is a good example. It's like that's a lot of bounces before somebody actually gets automatically suppressed. So, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, you could even look at soft bounce. Okay, I think what we generally do is if there's been 3, then we create a segment and then manually suppress them. Yeah.
I think we do 4, but it's up to you. Like you can even do 2. It's up to your practice. But 7, I think, is overkill.
Yeah, waiting for 7. Yeah, that could take a while. All right, so let me see what else I wanted to. So if you're just tuning in, then say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. I'll just put that one back on again. So I'm here with Andriy from Flowium. He's an expert in email marketing, and particularly with Klaviyo. He's been in this game with e-commerce, especially for almost 10 years. Runs an agency in New York. So he's here to answer any questions that people might have. If you do have a question for Andriy, and you can, instead of me asking all the questions, then just drop it into the chat. Just put a Q in front, and then I'll pick it up for you as well. If you do happen to watch this on the replay, then yeah, drop your question in. That gives me something that I can use the next time that we have one of these events on as well. So I want to talk a little bit about your favorite integrations with Klaviyo. So obviously Klaviyo integrates with a lot of different e-commerce platforms, but what other integrations do you generally find that you're using with your clients? You mentioned the loyalty ones and perhaps reviews, but is there any others that you always end up recommending that clients work with if they're not already using them?
So we do love anything about tracking their orders. So it's either Aftership or Wonderment. So basically, that software sends push to Klaviyo order updates. So it was received. We are preparing. We are shipping. It's in a transit. It's got delivered. So that thing it's amazing. It might not help you to generate more money, but it will improve your buyer's journey dramatically, and people are like excited to receive those kind of emails. Sometimes our clients a little bit skeptical, say, should we send so many emails? But if somebody spend either $5 or $200 with your brands, and especially if it's like luxury brands or higher like dollar amount, people are receiving those messages, especially if there's order delay. People are fine with delayed order as long as it's properly communicated. So those tools are, I mean, this is kind of the best tools like I like to use.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was something that when I was running my e-commerce business, about communication was key. And if something goes awry, and things always do, it's not a case of if they'll go awry, it's like when, and the communication piece is critical. So you mentioned Aftership, which I've heard of. There was another one that you mentioned there as well. What was that one again?
It's a Wonderment. I'm not sure how it's spelled.
Okay, it's like Wonderment. Yeah. I haven't heard of that one before. All right, cool. I know Aftership is something that I've seen a lot of Australian clients use. And the great thing about it is it gives you access to that order fulfilled event. So sometimes rather than sort of playing a guessing game with, well, once an order has been completed, then on average it's about a week or whatever before they actually receive it. You can be much more certain about, well, if it's based on now the order's fulfilled because that's the information that's come back from, say, Aftership. Now you may want to then use that as a trigger for, say, inviting people to submit a review on Google or something like that, rather than sort of going, okay, well, if it's a guesswork, then they might not have received the order yet, and then that gets a little bit awkward because now they've received an email inviting them to do something, and they haven't even got the order yet. So,
and especially when you send internationally, it's always guessing game, because let's say in States, it's easy to track, 7 days or 10 days to deliver. But if you send from US to Australia, like, is it 10 days or 21 days?
Well, the client I mentioned at the beginning there, Medcart, that's it's changed. It changed a lot. They, I think it was them anyway. Anyway, it's the way that the shipping for DHL used to work. It used to be pretty reliable as far as to a lot of overseas countries, but now it suddenly has blown out by weeks, and that can be upsetting for some people. But if you've got a product like Aftership, then at least people know they can track it, they can see where it's going to. All right, so that was so really some sort of tracking and fulfillment to keep. It's almost like transactional emails, but it's just it's the next step. So rather than just saying to people, okay, here's your invoice, and that's it, we can provide them with more information.
Actually, you're correct, Rob. It's 100% transactional email. It's just make it more, add a little bit of marketing there. Don't sell anything, but tell them. I'm not sure if in Australia, do you have Domino's Pizza in Australia? Domino's,
sure do. Yep.
And they have a tracker. They have a tracker, like where it's like pizza in the oven.
It's like Uber.
It's delivered. Yeah. So that thing, I was listening to podcasts. So that was success story of like Domino's Pizza. When they introduced that tracker, their sales went through the roof. And we start to implement the same thing with our clients. So when we do those transactional emails, we have a small tracker which shows the journey of all steps and tell you where you are. You receive specific email and tell you like you're currently here and there's 2 more steps to go. And it just gives people like transparency where they stand and how long they should kind of wait.
Yeah, it goes a long way to reduce anxiety. This is something I heard Oliver Kenyon, who's like an expert with, or you've probably heard of Oliver, with conversion optimization, right? Well, they call it conversion design now, and how they adapted the checkout process so that, there's the checkout, there's inserting the payment. It's like there's different steps really that you go through, and they would actually visually show this is where you are in the process, and just that one thing alone reduces anxiety, improves actual checkout completions and conversion rates. And it's funny. There's a lot of psychology in business, isn't there?
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I could probably dig out one more question here. We've had a very quiet audience today. Sometimes people watch these a lot on replay, and sometimes people want to put their hands up, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So we talked about integrations. As far as the post-purchase flows go, so this is for once people have made their first purchase, or whether it's their first or their second one, is there any that you would say is something you definitely should have, regardless of whether it's a business that has a big catalog or a small catalog, or they have a lot of repeat products? Is there one in the post-purchase flow that you'd say you'd always should have in place?
I like to have it's not about conversion, but again about great customer support. I like to have a dedicated email to tell people in case they have questions how they can contact the brand. Like maybe add special phone number, or tell them like, hey, we have a chat on our website, or this is the email, or just simply reply to this email and we'll let you know in the next 12 or 24 hours about your order. So I personally do love to include that email, because this is all about customer support. Because like when we buy maybe like $5 product, we don't have such a big buyer's remorse. But when we buy expensive product, it's we have a buyer remorse. And recently, I purchased a drone. A friend of mine from Ukraine. I mean, as you know, there's war in Ukraine and there's shortage of drones. And he asked me to buy a drone here in US. And I was looking for that specific drone, and it was like on Amazon, eBay, they didn't have it. So I found some kind of like drone city, but I never heard about that brand. I just found them through Google. And I was a little bit skeptical. Like, should I put my credit card? It's like looked a little bit scammy. You know, like those like drop shipping stores. And I'm like, but like, okay, listen, if it's scam, I'll just call my credit card and they will refund me money. So I put in the credit card, but as soon as I purchased, first I received the confirmation that my order is placed. I got my receipt, but later I received the dedicated email about customer support, and it looks like a legit brand because they had like physical store, they had a like 1-800 number, they emailed, so they have all channels how I can reach out to them and ask about my order. And like 3 or 4 days later, I received the package. And by the way, they had the also tracking emails letting me know where my order is.
Yeah, the transaction emails on steroids. I'm gonna keep calling them that. Okay. Excellent. All right, so part of what I do is I enjoy helping people with their brands, with their businesses. So if somebody did want to contact you, Andrew, or learn more about what's the best way for them to learn more about what you do, and if they wanted to get in contact and ask questions or whatever, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. I mean, the easiest one to go to our website, flowium.com. It's FLOWIUM.com. Or if you want to reach out specifically to me, just find me, my first and last name, Andriy Boychuk, and go to LinkedIn. I'm like very active on LinkedIn, responding to all people, accepting their invites. So very active there if you have any additional questions.
All right, cool. And do you have any final message that you'd like to leave people with? Anything that you would say this is a must do, or anything you want to leave us with?
Just send marketing emails to your customer. I know everybody is doing it right now, but still it's not enough. I mean, not enough meaningful messages. So learn from the best and do at least once a week newsletter or campaign to your customers or prospects.
Yeah, I think that's really good. That's a simple piece of advice. It's one that I wish I had actually taken on board more when I had my business. It wasn't until sort of the last few years I was running where we do regularly, and just that one thing, regularly sending out one, even if you have no automations or anything else, if you just do a regular weekly email, it's amazing, and it grows as your subscriber base grows. Even if only 25 or 30% of people are opening it, it always generated a ton of sales every time, and it just made people feel like they had some connection with the brand, which I think is important, because at the end of the day, we're all people. We're not just businesses and sort of numbers. Customers aren't just numbers, they're actually human beings. So we've got to find a way to connect people together.
Correct.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, Andrew. I wish it wasn't just me that had all the questions, but I'm sure there'll be others. If you are watching this on replay, you had some additional questions for Andrew, then you could drop them in the comments. Otherwise, you can connect up with him on LinkedIn. You'll also find me there as well. I'll leave all the details in the show notes. And that's all. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. Just stick around. I'll just end the broadcast and then we'll close off.
Thank you, Rob, for having me.
You're welcome.